Microsoft Word 210, Advanced Find and Replace. Clever ways of using Find and Replace. Here we have a typical document, and you'll notice if the Home tab is selected up here, right over at the end here we have Find and Replace. If I click on where it says Find, that brings up, if it's not already displayed, the navigation pane over here, and I can just type in a word I want to find. So for instance, I could type in the word, say, new, and it will find all instances of the word new. If I want to find all instances of the word font, type in font, and it finds all instances here. And if I use this control here, the next search result button, that basically will take me round every single instance of the word we're searching for. You just click on it and you just keep scrolling around, as you can see. So that's the basic find command. Incidentally, instead of having to go all the way over here, it's always best to remember the keyboard shortcut for this, which is Control F. Type in Control F and up this pops. Notice it remembers the last thing you searched for. Right, apart from find, we've also got replace, so you can basically search for a word or a phrase and replace it with something else, or replace it with nothing if you want to. Click on replace over here, and this brings up the find and replace dialog box. If I cancel that for a minute, a good keyboard shortcut to remember is Control H. Does exactly the same thing as clicking over here, but it's a lot easier. So if I just get rid of that, Control H, that's the keyboard shortcut for displaying the find and replace dialog box. Notice it did remember the last thing you typed in there. So if I want to, I can type in the word font and replace it with a slightly different word, maybe the word fonts, F-O-N-T-S. And if I click on where it says find next, it finds the next instance. If I click on replace, it will replace it. So it now says fonts. It's totally wrong in this context, but this is just an example. It's found the next instance here. If I want to replace it, I click on here. If I want to leave that particular instance alone, I can say, okay, leave that one, find the next one. There's the next one. Do you want to replace it? If so, I click on here. If I want to leave it alone, I click here. So if I want to replace it, I click here, and there we go. The next one, no, I'll leave it as it is. Click on find next, leave that one, and there you are. It's done the basic job as required. Now, at the end of the day, that's how most people would use find or find and replace, but there's a lot more to it. If I press Control H to bring up the dialog box here, these are the basic options, but notice this button here, it's called More. Click on it and see what happens. You get all these extra options. So for instance, you can specify a search where you match the case. You can specify a search that finds whole words only. And there's various options, various other options. Now, with find and replace, there's a very dangerous option called replace all. And the reason that's dangerous is this. Let's look at this word here. It's the word preferred. What a lot of people don't realize is when you're doing find and replace, if you don't specify whole words only, then let's say you wanted to find the word red and replace it with the word green. I think you can see where this is heading. Notice the word red is actually contained within this word. So the word itself is preferred, but hidden within that, if you like, is the word red. So let's do a find and replace for the word red and replace it with the word green. Control H brings up the dialog box. Type in the word red and replace that with green. Now, I haven't used these extra options here. It would have been sensible to use this one, but I'm not going to do that, just so you can see what happens. I'll move this down here a bit. So we're going to replace the word red with the word green. And a lot of people, when they're doing find and replace, they're kind of a little bit lazy. They just say, oh, I can't be bothered doing it one at a time. I'll just click on replace all. And let's say this is a big document and the word preferred was somewhere within that document. Look what happens. Oops. Preferred is now prefer green. See the problem? If I press Control Z to come out of that, reverse the effect. Let's do that again. So let's replace red with green, but this time I'll say find whole words only, not words like this which are sort of buried within other words. So in this particular case I'm saying find the word red, make it a whole word, replace it with green, find whole words only, do a replace all. As you can see now, no problem. So the basic message is be a little bit careful with replace all, and certainly if you're going to use it, always have this option here, find whole words only, otherwise this sort of problem crops up over and over again. Okay, what else we got? We got these options here. We've also got these two buttons here, which again are incredibly powerful. If we click on the format drop down here, basically what it does, it allows us to specify particular formatting information that we're searching for. So for instance, if I click on the font option here, I can say let's search for a particular font, specify that there, and in here I can repeat the thing and say I can specify a search for a different font. So let's actually try that. Before we do that, let's see what we've got here. We've got the first line there is displayed in Arial. The second line is Times New Roman. This is Courier New. That one's Times New Roman. That one's Arial Narrow. And this one here is Stencil. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to replace a particular font, Times New Roman, which is basically this line and that line. So the first and fourth line are both formatted in a font called Times New Roman. It's just a type of font, name of a font. So how do we do that? Control H. Notice it remembered the last thing we were searching for, so we have to get rid of that. So we don't want to search for that, and we don't want to search for that, and we don't need this one anymore. So basically we've cleared all of those options there. Click on where it says font. Whoops. First of all, click within there. Then click on where it says font. So what am I going to search for? I'm going to search for Times New Roman. So if I go down here and find Times New Roman, which is there, I'll say okay, I'll specify that. So what am I searching for? The format Times New Roman. Click within the replace with, go back down here and say, let's pick another font. So it can be anything you want. We'll pick something that sort of stands out a bit so you can see the effect. What have we got here? We'll go for Stencil, which is going to make it very obviously different. So we'll change that, and while we're at it we can make a few other changes. So how about changing the color? Let's change it to purple. How about changing the size? I mean, normally you wouldn't do all of these options, but just showing you the effect. Let's say you wanted something like a double strike through. Maybe you wanted it in small caps. I mean, basically you can change all of these things. Sorry, that was the underlying color. This is the font color here. So basically we can change all of these. We can also make it bold if we want to. So this gives us a preview of what it's going to look like. If we click on OK, as you can see, just to recap, we're basically saying find all instances of Times New Roman without any other formatting particularly, and then change it to the stencil font and do all of these other changes at the same time. Now if I move this down here so you can see what's going on, look what happens when I click on the replace all. I'm going to click now. See what happens? That line there, it was Times New Roman, it's now in stencil. This line here was in Times New Roman, it's now in stencil. Plus all that other information has been applied as well. So that's a kind of a clever way. That shows you the sort of capabilities of using advanced find and replace. It doesn't stop there. That was just the formatting options. There's lots of paragraph formatting options you could change. So for instance, you could find center text and align it to the left or the right or justified. So there's lots more options there, but also we've got this special button next door. Click on this and that's even more useful. So for instance, let's say you had a document that for some reason, instead of being separated with paragraph marks throughout the document, maybe it had manual line breaks. It happens sometimes if you've got documents that are being produced by someone else and not correctly formatted. So basically you could say replace all paragraph marks with manual line breaks or vice versa. Let's say you had a delimited file you were using for a database and currently it was using tab elimination. You could say replace all tab characters with, say, a space or a dash or something like that. So instead of manually going through the whole document one at a time, you could do a global replace, and there you go. In that particular case, it's probably a good idea to keep a backup, because you might find that in that particular example, there might be commas, for sake of argument, within the actual document, and that could truly mess up the formatting of the database. So when you're using this, it's always a good idea to make a backup of the original, make some changes, apply that, and then see what happens. Right, there's various other things you can do. You could, for instance, search for column breaks. So I can say search for column breaks there. Notice all the other formatting is displayed there. So what I can do is get rid of all of that really before I do anything else. So if I click on that says no formatting. Click here, that says no formatting. So we've got rid of all that. So let's just go back so you can see what I did there. Control H, whoops, brings up this. If I go down here, now if I want to, for instance, search for, I don't know, one of these things like, what were we looking at, the column breaks. If I wanted to search for column breaks, if I wanted to get rid of all the column breaks within a document, I don't have to replace it with something else. So I won't be able to do it in this case because this document doesn't actually contain any, but let's say this was a 50-page document and there were column breaks all over the place, and maybe the document had got into quite a bit of a mess by somebody editing it wrongly. Then I could just simply leave this one open, and when I click on replace all, it would replace the column breaks with nothing, i.e. it would remove all the column breaks. So this is an absolutely brilliant way of basically making life easier. It can save you hours and hours of work trawling through replacing things. Now, Control H brings it up again. Special. Look at all these other things we can change. So paragraph marks, tab characters, any digit. Let's say you've got a document and it's got a whole load of numbers within it. So it's just a regular document, but every so often you've got something like a code, a 3-digit code, and then something else. You could basically say search for something that has a digit. If I just replicate that, say 3 times, that basically would be the information that says search for 3 numbers, doesn't matter which number, any 3 numbers. And if I say no formatting down here, and also up there, basically this is saying search for 3 numbers, one after the other, and replace them with nothing, i.e. remove them. So you kind of get the idea. There's an awful lot of stuff you can do here. As I say, if you want to get rid of, say, manual line breaks or manual page breaks, column breaks is another one that comes in quite handy sometimes, and tabs and paragraph marks, those are probably the most important ones. But basically it just allows you to edit your documents an awful lot faster. As I say, especially if you use replace all, do take care, because it can be very dangerous. Always work with backups. Advanced find and replace options using paragraph formatting. Here we've got a document. As you can see, the first line here is aligned to the left, aligned to the right, and centered, left, right, and centered. I can, of course, just simply change all this and go into here and what have you. But let's say this is a really long document and you just wanted to apply formatting changes to certain parts of the document, or maybe to an entire document. Now if I press Control H, that brings up Find and Replace. I click on More, we see more options. And if we go to where it says Format here, if we go to where it says Paragraph, basically we can change particular paragraph options. So for instance, let's say we want to find items that are centered. So we find items that are centered. If we go down here, we'll replace those with paragraphs that are aligned to the left. So I go to Format, Paragraph, Alignment, Left, and click on OK. So we just move down a bit. As you can see, we've got different paragraphs here using different sorts of alignments, and I'm basically saying find what? Find the formatting that is centered and replace it with formatting that is formatted to the left. When I click on replace all, you can see what happened. Basically the ones that were centered have gone to the left, and the ones that are right aligned have stayed where they were. Let's say I wanted to change these. I could go back here and say, right, instead of centered, let's go to Format, Paragraph, find ones that are aligned to the right. Okay. So it's just this one and this one aligned to the right. When I click on Replace All, there you go. Simple as that. There's loads more you can do with paragraph formatting. So it's worth kind of checking out these options, having a little play around with that. But basically all the usual paragraph options, paragraph formatting options you can change. And of course do bear in mind you've got another tab here, so you can change these sort of things as well. So an awful lot of flexibility, a lot of power there. Advanced find and replace options using paragraph marks. Here we've got a Word document. It looks like a typical Word document, but if I click here on the Show Hide button, as you can see, it doesn't have the normal separator here. A paragraph mark normally looks like this one down the bottom. What we've actually got here is a document where every line has been terminated with what's called a manual line break. Sometimes you get this when you've been importing documents from, say, other formats and the formatting is not quite correct. So basically we've got a problem. I mean, what we could do is we could press the return key there, or the enter key, and then press the delete key and think, okay, that's okay. And then we could go there and press the enter key and the delete key. And we could go through this document. In this case, it's no big deal because it's only a couple of lines, but if this was like a 30-page document, you don't really want to be doing that. So I'll press Ctrl Z a few times. So it's back to where we started. So as I say, basically the problem is each line here is terminated with what's called a manual line break. As I say, a paragraph break looks like this thing here. So I'll turn that off for the time being. We'll press Ctrl H. That brings up the Find and Replace dialog box. And I'll click on the More button and we'll go to where it says Special. So what we want to do is we want to find manual line breaks. There it is. And if I click in the Replace section here, I want to replace manual line breaks with paragraph marks. So I click here, click the first option which says paragraph mark. So let's move down so we can see what's happening here. So I'm basically saying use find and replace, find manual line breaks, and that's the code that got inserted automatically for us, and replace that with paragraph marks. If I click on replace all, notice it's made 6 replacements. Close that down. It doesn't look that different, but if we go up here, as you can see, it's done exactly what we asked. The manual line breaks have been replaced with normal paragraph mark breaks. And as you've seen, that was remarkably easy to do. There's an awful lot more you can do with this sort of technique, so it's advisable basically to examine it, look at your particular situation, and try and think how you can apply these sort of techniques to your particular field. Advanced find and replace options using page breaks. Here we've got a document. I've turned the show hide on. Normally it looked like that. If I click on this show hide icon, you can see we've got some page breaks. There's one, there's another one over there, and if we scroll down, there's another one there, and there's another one here, and there's yet more here, and so on and so forth. So if you look down the bottom here, it says pages 5 or 6. So we've got a 6-page document here, but mostly it's empty space. So let's say this is a document that had been sent to you by somebody else, and you thought, no, there's too much empty space, I want to get rid of the page breaks. How do I do it? Well, you could of course go in here and press the, you basically just click before the page break, and you press the delete key. Obviously in order to do this you have to click on the show hide here so you can actually see it. So there's a bit of pathing about, and then you'd have to go to the next one, click in front of it and do that. And you could do this, there's nothing wrong with this, it just takes a while. I'll press Ctrl Z so we reverse those. We're back to where we started. So basically what we want to do is we want to replace page breaks with nothing. How do we do that? Ctrl H. That brings up the find and replace. Click on where it says more and then go to the special button. So what we want to do is we want to find page breaks. Now where are we? Page breaks. There we go. We got a manual page break there. So we click on that and that inserts the code for page break. Normally when you're using find and replace, you replace one item with something else. In this case, we're just going to say find page breaks and replace with nothing, i.e. remove them. Click on the replace all button. It's found five items and replaced them. So we'll close all that down. And as you can see, no sign of the page breaks anymore. They've been replaced. Simple as that.